Welcome to Lesson 1. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at 3 of the major hardware pieces that SMART makes. SMART makes a whole bunch of different hardware pieces that you can use with or without the SMART software, and even with some of the other software that they make. But we're going to take a look at the 3 major ones. The first one is the actual SMART board itself. The second one is the Symposium, and the third one is the Airliner. All of these can be used with the SMART Notebook software and utilized by a teacher to actually create and actually produce and present a lesson to their class. Let's take a look at and talk about the first item, the first piece of hardware, the most popular piece of hardware offered by SMART, which is your actual SMART board. It's this large wall-mounted item that works in conjunction with a projector mounted on your ceiling. And actually, this isn't going to be my computer screen. I actually have a computer right down here that this runs off of. This computer right down here actually runs this large mechanism. This thing is tied to with a USB cable to my computer so that it knows when I touch it, how to interact with the computer so that I can open documents. And you're about to see all of this in just a few short minutes. But at this time, we're going to take a look at what's offered in the tray below the screen, because we're going to focus on the screen for all the rest of the activities. Let's move down here though and take a look at what we see as our essentially SmartBoard tray. You should find 4 separate pens, and as you pick up a pen, you'll notice an illuminating light, letting you know that you have activated this pen and you can now go and continue to write on the board. If you have made a boo-boo and you want to move over to the eraser here, once again it illuminates it so you know you have it. And this doesn't function as a real eraser, even though it kind of looks like one. You're not going to go over to your whiteboard over there and start erasing some of the marker. But this is just to give you that hometown feel, that real feel that you're actually erasing something, and it functions just like that as an eraser on the board. Beyond these pens here, there are a few buttons right down here that we want to call attention to. One of them is a right-click button. If I click on this, I'm going to have right-click capabilities. Anything that you could do with a right-click, copy things, paste things, check the properties on it. This is going to give you that functionality. Right next to it is the keyboard button. If I punch this keyboard button, on my screen will show up an actual SmartBoard on-screen keyboard. This isn't super functional when you're actually back in the office or anything like that, which is why the keyboard is more of a in the classroom kind of a tool/utility. It's going to splash up here a keyboard that I can use to search around websites and that sort of thing. The last button on here, if we take one more tiny look, is the little help button. And that's going to give me some little rescue tips and some information about what I can do with my software here, what I can do with my hardware, and how the function of this SmartBoard actually works. It can even take me out to SMART's website. That tiny little question mark button will alleviate a lot of my problems. All in all, we have a large, functional, in front of class SmartBoard, a projected unit that is going to help you communicate and interact with your students, coupled with a tray down here at the bottom with all of your little tools and your utilities to get your lessons taken care of. This is the second of the 2 things that we're going to talk about as far as SmartBoard is concerned when we talk about hardware. This thing is called the Symposium, and it's actually going to let me interact with the screen by writing on it with a stylus that you'll see in just one moment. But one of the big deals about this item is that it allows me to stand up here in front of class, survey my students, read their social cues, see if anybody's falling behind, making sure that everybody's on task. It's a great classroom management tool in some ways. I don't have to have my back on them looking at the whiteboard. And the second excellent thing about the Symposium is actually located over here. Using the Symposium allows me to use my projector to actually put my image on full standard size drop-down screen. It allows me to show larger, more full images. The resolution's a little bit better. The students way in the back of the class actually get a great view of what's going on at the same time as letting me utilize the SMART software. One of the things that you can do first off is if you don't like the angle at which your Symposium is lying, you can grab a hold of the little arm in the back and raise it up, and you have about 4 different options for different angles or different inclines of your Symposium. Then on the back you'll see this tether is actually hooked to a stylus. This stylus has a certain tip on it that allows you to actually write directly on your screen. And in just a moment, you're going to see that this screen right here becomes your computer monitor, and you get to write directly on your computer monitor. Besides the actual interaction of your computer monitor and the screen here, you're going to see that there are buttons located up along the top and along the bottom down here where you can change tools, utilize tools, take screen captures, change the color of your stylus, whether you want it to be black, red, blue. And there are even some zoom in and zoom out buttons located way up here at the top. There's enter and menu buttons to actually change the way the Sympodium functions. Now we're taking a look at the actual Sympodium. Gives you tons of freedom. You can open applications from down here, which you'll see in a second. I can grab that pen tool or a pen tool, draw things. I actually have quite a bit of freedom with this little stylus. It works just like my cursor. It also multifunctions as a pen, and I can do it in a touch of a button. Like I said, I can open up applications by double-clicking on them, just as if I double-clicked with my mouse tool and the application would open up. I can then toggle back and forth between things. It functions just exactly like a mouse. The third piece of hardware that we're going to take a look at today is called the SmartBoard Airliner. And the first little gadget from the Airliner that you're going to need to know about is this little Bluetooth connection. You pop the cap off, slam this into any USB port located on your computer, and instantly you are provided with a wireless Airline Slate tablet. One of the only things that you need to know about this tablet before we begin is it's not quite like the Sympodium that we just took a look at. The Sympodium, you actually could see the screen projected onto the thing that you were writing on. In this case, you're going to be writing on a blank screen. So where's the actual writing going to appear? Let's take a look over here. On this screen is where you're going to see any kind of writing that you put on here. If I put the number 4 on here, the number 4 is going to appear on your screen up there. The beauty of this, even though it has that little bit of a learning curve where you have to turn around and take a look at that screen, the beauty of this is I'm free to roam around the classroom. I can even hand this out to students. I can interact with students, modulate, move around in between them, and still make my annotations, my little marks, my writing can all of a sudden appear on the screen. Here's a close-up view of the actual Airliner. The Airliner comes with 2 buttons that you can program to do whatever you want, basically. You could tell it to change the color of your pen. You could tell it to be your right-click capability. You'll learn that in the control panel settings in one of the lessons later on. But let's take a look at the stylus and how it's slightly different than that of the Sympodium. It actually has these 2 buttons right here that make this stylus more dynamic. If I never press the buttons, if all I do is set my pen down on here and move around, I will actually just use this pen as a cursor like I did with the Sympodium. I can open programs, I can actually move stuff around, I use it as my cursor. If I press forward on this button right here on the front half of it, it instantly changes to a pen tool so that I can draw on top of my screen. If I press the back half of this button right here, it turns into an eraser. You can imagine how nice that is to fly from cursor to pen to eraser. That is the utilities of an Airliner in a nutshell.